welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinions on all thing film. My name is Lewis, and I'm joined today with the one and only Gonzalo.
Good to be back.
Yes, good. I thought I'd give you a bit more of
Yes.
a ceremonious introduction
this.
because of the film we're talking about
Yes,
today.
very
a bit more
ceremonious.
theatrics. But yeah, how are you getting on?
Yes.
How are you getting on?
Not bad, not bad. I've watched this film more recently than you have, because when did you watch it? You watched it the last
I watched
weekend,
it
right?
Sunday.
Sunday,
Yes.
I watched it Monday night. A very late showing for me, honestly.
Yeah, for you.
And yeah, so I'm a bit more like still digesting it than you are. I feel like your points are going to be a lot more straightforward. Mine are going to be a bit more diluted. But we're talking about the one and only, the Joker.
I was hoping you'd say the title because my friend just don't. But yes, it's Joker Folie Deux.
Yes.
Folie Deux. So yeah, this will be a spoiler-free and spoiler-filled review as we do with these big films. So we'll of course review the spoiler-free segment first. We'll talk about opinions. We'll give our scores, and then we'll tell you when we go into spoilers. And I will leave time codes below, so you know when to pause and when to stop.
Yes.
Or if you want to just jump to spoilers, I can do that as well. I guess.
Do that.
But yeah, right. Gonzalo, so there's a lot to talk about here. Let's jump back 5 years. Let's talk about Joker 2019. I mean, I've written this in my written review, which is out now as well. And I was talking about how when that film came out, that's all anyone talked about. There was this whole thing pushed by Warner Brothers clearly about this controversial film that could incite violence and riots. It was adored by people, especially comic book fans who haven't really seen a lot of dramatic and darker stuff.
No, we
taking on a more serious story.
Interesting takes on DC characters. We've had the kind of attempt of like doing a connected Marvelized universe from them. So we really hadn't had a lot of I feel like that has been a lot of the strength of Warner Brothers DC movies, like the idea of them taking a different approach when it comes to adapting some of those characters and some of those situations. And we really hadn't seen that for a while when this first came out. So it was like this prestige thing. Yeah.
That was where
before the Batman, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is before the Batman. But I always thought that Warner Brothers not doing their MCU sort of thing, because their MCU style films were all pretty bad. When they kind of did their own thing, those tended to be the most successful and the most appreciated films. So I wish they kind of stuck to that. But of course, next year we're beginning a whole new DCEU. But regardless, yes, it made it over $1 billion, the first R-rated film ever to do that. Obviously, Deadpool & Wolverine has surpassed that this year. And yeah, it got like 10 Oscar nominations, with Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Actor, and it won for Best Score as well. But I think we've talked a lot about this on this show, about how we feel about the original Joker. I mean, I've made it abundantly clear how I'm not a fan of that film. I found it its social commentary paper thin. I thought it was just a blatant copy of King of Comedy mixed with Taxi Driver. I mean, there's aspects of it that are well made. It's shot well. Like I said, it won an Oscar for its score, which was very fitting. The score was great. But overall, I just...
It was one of those movies that kind of tricked you into believing it was better than it was. And I say that as someone who was fully tricked after first watching it. I came out of the cinema being like, wow, that was a really good movie. And it wasn't until I digested it further that I realized actually that was pretty hollow. But I feel it does speak to the exorbitant amount of talent that worked on this film. From the incredible acting from everyone involved in the cast, to the fantastic costume and set design, to the cinematography, to the score. It was a very packed with talent film that just had the weakness of having a very weak surface level message to it, told in a very cowardly way, honestly. I feel like there's cowardice to the message of this movie. I feel like it is pretending and masquerading to be something more than it is.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. And the reaction to it, I mean, even to this day, people who adore that film are not big fans of the sequel, which we'll get into.
Yes. Which makes me like the sequel a lot more.
Well, yeah, let's get started. So, this is kind of the thing. I mean, it's opened to a box office globally, which of half the opening of the original did. Like I say, fans are leaving in anger and disappointment. People calling this the worst film of the year. And even with that, I think this film just about works.
Yeah.
It has flaws. It's not perfect.
It does. It does have
but
a lot of flaws.
from someone who is self-confessed not a fan of the first film, this made for a fascinating sequel. This was one when they announced the sequel, I was like, oh, okay.
I was not interested in the slightest.
No,
I
was like,
it because I had to watch it for that show. I
yeah,
was not
exactly.
going to catch this movie.
No, you're not going to see it.
No.
But I am really. This is to me the biggest surprise of the year. But yeah, let's get into the plot of this before we delve into the nitty gritty. So yeah, the film actually opens with this Looney Tunes inspired cartoon called Me and My Shadow. A really neat animation to start with.
Best part of the whole movie for me.
You loved the I knew when that came out you would have loved it.
As soon as the Warner's, like the retro Warner's Brothers logo came up, I was like, yes, I'm in for this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be part of the film or if they made a special short to recap the first film before the film started. Either way, I was in.
You loved it. You loved it. Yeah, so the cartoon is Me and My Shadow, and like you say, it kind of summates the conclusion of the first film. And also very clearly establishes the idea. Introduces the themes of identity and like mental suffering that Arthur's experiencing and who's really in charge of his mind. From there, we understand that 2 years have passed since Joker's murders caused chaos in Gotham City, for which Arthur / the Joker is awaiting trial for. The prison is this horrible, dour, oppressive place populated with really abusive guards. Jackie, who's played by Brendan Gleeson, is kind of Arthur's main tormentor, who have a very, very really kind of imbalance of power, obviously, relationship where it gets pretty nasty later on. However, Arthur does eventually find a little bit of solace in this prison when he begins to find musical therapy, meeting Harley or Lee Quinzel, who's Lady Gaga here, a woman who's infatuated with the idea or who the Joker is. And from their sort of very, very brief and fleeting introductions, the two become obsessed with each other very quickly, and from this love, Arthur's musicals fantasies are born. So that's kind of the gist of it. Yes. This is a musical. I'm sure you know that by now.
Less of a musical that people have been complaining about, honestly. It doesn't even get to the level of something like Chicago, where like the music is expressed of it's more a musical in the way I feel Shrek is a musical, honestly. It's not like
well, this is the thing. No, I kind of disagree that people are saying it's not really musical, you have to wait ages and then a song comes into play. And I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of musicals.
It is a lot of musicals.
Sometimes a lot of plot and then they jump into song. And I actually checked this out because this kind of frustrated me because La La Land came out to universal acclaim and people loved that musical. And I checked this because I remember my main complaint with La La Land is that it was kind of too afraid to be a musical.
Yes, very similar vibes to La La Land.
Gonzalo, how many tracks are on the La La Land soundtrack?
I'm gonna say 5, maybe 6. I don't know.
Well, there's 15 songs on the soundtrack, right?
Okay.
How many songs are on this Joker soundtrack?
Oh shit! Actually, there might be more, right? Yeah, I think this has like maybe 20 songs or something like that.
Wrong again. It has the exact same number of songs as La La Land. No, a film everyone seemed to claim was a great musical. But this one, with the same number of songs, seems to people say it's afraid to be a musical, which I find quite interesting.
Because in this one, we do get a lot of moments where the soundtrack is like very focused on the lyrics of what the soundtrack is saying, and then we get a lot of moments where suddenly that soundtrack is being sang by one of the characters without actually. So like it does kind of come in and out a bit, and maybe I've been like. Because I don't know if you'd count those, because like there's several scenes, especially at the start, before we get any more like involved scenes where the characters start singing. We have a lot of scenes where like there's a song that's playing in the background, whose lyrics are like applying and defining the situation or contrasting the situation that we're feeling in a very musically kind of way.
Exactly. That was just an interesting. That was an interesting thing. I was like, I'm sure I felt like there was more songs in this than there was in La La Land. La La Land. But anyway, yes, this is sort of a prison drama along with a courtroom drama and a musical all in one. But yes, Gonzalo, what are your overall thoughts? On Joker Folie, Deux?
First of all, for the positives, the actors fucking kill it again. Stunning.
Absolutely. I agree.
Cinematography, gorgeous. I want to say my favorite part of this film were the themes that were explored. In some ways, not as well as they could have been explored, but the intentions of this film seem a lot more interesting to me than the ones in the first
Yeah.
one. The first one seemed like a rehash of better movies that have explored those themes in a more nuanced and interesting way. This seemed a lot more original when it came to what it was trying to say and how it was trying to say it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that kept me going throughout the film. Also, I really fucking liked the songs, and they were the
Yeah,
best
me
part
too.
of the movie for
Me
me.
too. Me too.
Yeah, I
Which is kind of a
cried.
big thing. If you're not gonna
Yeah,
like the songs, you're not gonna like this movie.
the one of the last songs made me cry, tear up a little bit
Yeah.
there at the cinema, and I did not think
Yeah.
that was gonna happen in a fucking Joker
No,
movie.
I know.
So
I know.
yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. I'm on the same page as you pretty much. Like I say, the entire conceit of this film to me was fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a trial about the first film, incorporating the plot of the first film, but the reaction of that film, the consequences of that film, and sort of the misunderstanding and the pitfalls and the errors of following or idolizing someone like
100%. Yeah.
Joker. They
Yes.
don't call him the Joker. It's
No, they call
always
him
Joker,
Joker.
which
Yeah.
I've got a theory about
Thought that
later
was
on.
funny.
And I just from that,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting Todd Phillips to do.
No, not at all.
Someone who is using quadrupling the budget of his first film, getting Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
turning it into a musical, and
In
then
order to
using that,
recontextualize.
yeah, in order
and
to
criticize
recontextualize
the first film.
and come to terms with the film he
Yeah.
made 5 years ago. I was like,
This was
that
his Dune
is
Messiah.
bold.
I want to say
And
this was his Dune Messiah.
that is you
This was
said
his
you
Dune
said that, and I
Messiah.
was like,
Like,
that is
yeah.
a perfect analogy.
This is what
People
that
who
was.
didn't get the first film having to make a sequel, being like, guys, come on. I thought that was I was like, I can't believe this $200 million film got greenlit because of that. Like you're saying, I really love the musical numbers.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's rougher singing.
Yes.
Lady
yes.
Gaga even said that she had to unlearn how to sing to perform some of these songs because it
I will
has to be
say
rougher. These aren't
that
professional singers.
I am not usually a fan of that. I fucking hated Les Mis. I hate, well, I mean, everybody hates Cast, but I really hate that trend of like having the actor singing live for like for a very like musicals that are written as a musical. Like whenever you're taking something from Broadway to the screen. Like no, that music is specifically written in a way that's gonna already elicit those emotions or that sadness or that crassness. Like the composition, the musical composition of it is already going to do that. You don't need to starve your main actor in order for him to sound desperate. The song is already going to make him sound desperate. But
Yeah, exactly.
in the case of this one, because of the fact that first of all, it's not an adaptation of a Broadway musical. It's not a very musically musical in the sense that it doesn't feel like it has a lot of like I want songs and like the typical structure of a Broadway musical. It doesn't have that. It feels like the music is the escapism from these people from reality, specifically for the Joker. And in the themes that were introduced in the first one and continue through this one of like switching between reality and imagination, as these imagination gets more powerful, I like how the singing gets better and the soundtrack gets better and you get more musicals as his delusions like take over further and further.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like those kind of the big numbers. I think one of my favorite kind of bigger numbers is what's it called? The Go Build a Mountain, and it's the one where Joaquin Phoenix is tap dancing and Gaga's on the piano. I love that number. I think that's amazing.
And
I think that's a great bit of
how
spectacle.
that one has the reprise afterwards.
It has a reprise as well. Yeah.
I will say that is an aspect, because I'm going to criticize the pacing and structure of this movie a lot.
Yeah.
When it comes to the musical bits, the pacing is excellent. It goes from very subtle, very subdued, very like integrated in reality breaks of music to bigger and bigger until you have this explosion, and then after a thing happens in the plot, it goes back down into reality to go to the smaller, more intimate, more broken, more rough sounding musical numbers. And I think that, like, absolutely, it's like, that is what I wish the structure of the rest of the movie and the pacing of the rest of the movie had reflected. Because they nail it there. Absolutely.
I get that. I get that. I mean,
this is very
I
vague.
kind of
It's
liked
hard
as
without
well.
spoilers, but you know what I mean.
I know you mean.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that, and I said this like when I came out, I messaged you guys because Kyle's always like, "Oh my god, did he like it or not?"
Yeah.
He's not seen the film; he's seeing it this weekend, which is sadly why he couldn't really be a part of this one. But I said, I was like, this. Not only is this better than the first film to me by quite a margin, I also thought this is a far bleaker and more hopeless film.
100%.
And now this comes into play about the structure and kind of an element that is flawed. Is that you said this as well about the first film has that building tension and the audience is aware that we're going to get an explosion come the third act, come the finale, and we're just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, so it's building emotion. Whereas things are like keep frustrating you because you know it's going to blow up all at the end. Like, I think
but this one,
it had the cheat code. Honestly, like it had an easier going at it. Like the story it was trying to tell is a way easier story to tell within this normal 3-act structure and filmic language that like Western audiences are used to. Whereas this one was a fucking challenge. And
and that's what I mean. This one is kind of replaced by a narrative that is only going in like one clear direction. There isn't really many twists, and there's not really any twists in terms of surprises. It's like your first prediction of where it's gonna where this trial is gonna go is probably going to be the right one. There isn't, like I say, there isn't much, that's kind of in the way of, kind of changing things up. And that also, like you're saying, with the pacing, kind of does make it a bit uneven, is that the trial, although, I like the sort of, like, we're sort of facing the first film on a meta level, when it comes to the actual just plot of this film, that does make it a little bit tedious, is that we are having to recount events we've all seen.
Yes.
We're here for Joker 2. We've seen that film, which kind of bogs it down.
I will say, like, I don't think we needed anything other than that animated start. I think that animated beginning puts you in the context perfectly, reminds you of the important parts of the first movie, and then just, like, everything else, every other flashback to replaying a scene from the first movie, completely superfluous, could just be completely cut out. I don't like how much it went back. I think that took a lot from a pacing that was already quite flimsy, and I don't know, it just doesn't have the rhythm that it needs to keep you moving forward. I feel like for me, every time we got a song, it was a sigh of relief because we got to do something fun for a little bit, And yes, I guess that is a very good, like, that might have been the intended reaction. This might be all just Todd Phillips wanting to fuck with us and being like, yeah, you enjoy the songs because everything else sucks. That's the point. That's what he's living,
Yeah.
But I feel like the rhythm of it really suffers. The pacing really suffers, and it did have a harder job. It is a harder thing to pull off, to tell us the story of a very, like a doomed man, let's be honest here. Like, we know things aren't going to go well for him. So, it just got a lot of ups and downs. We felt, oh, maybe it's going, oh, no, it's not. Oh, maybe it's, oh, no, it's not. And yes, I understand that from, like, a storytelling point. Like, yes, that is what he is feeling, like this idea of like trying to reach out, then being denied over and over again. But as an audience member, it was quite dull, you know what I mean?
Okay
For me, at least, it felt a bit.
For you, no. It's interesting, we have
personal.
similar flaws, but I think overall I was more entertained
By the
than you.
I think you were.
I think
you were. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I was just caught really off guard at
No,
how
honestly,
surprised I was that I liked
I,
this film.
it might be that because you came in thinking it was going to be atrocious. I came in after hearing you said that it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be. So maybe my expectations were set a bit too
Maybe
high.
I should have just I should have lied. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the worst film of the year.
Maybe my expectations were a bit too high.
I want,
Yeah.
I mean, right. Is there anything else you want to do before we do scores and then spoilers? Anything else you want to bring up?
Well, just talk about how fucking good Lady Gaga is as an actor.
Yeah, Lady Gaga.
I hadn't seen her in much. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Really, you haven't seen her in A Star Is Born, have you?
no, I haven't seen A Star Is Born.
No.
No. So, like,
okay.
I was like, damn, like, she's really good at acting.
She is really good. And I do think she is actually kind of underutilized at points in this film.
She is. I will
and I
talk
get her
about
role
more
as
spoilers.
Yeah,
About
her
some
role's
of the
kind of
aspects her role.
more
She's a
symbolic or metaphorical
Yes.
about
Yeah.
everything else that's going on around it. I kind of get that point, but they could have given her a few more songs. You know,
They
I
could
mean,
have.
the one she sings the Carpenters song, "They Long to
Oh, yeah.
Be Close to You."
That's really nice.
That was a great. I
love
love
the
her vocals in that
duet
one.
with the fire when they're watching the movie.
The Fred Astaire film.
Yeah, the Fred Astaire film. I also like the thing. They're doing the thing that a lot of movies do. Like I'm thinking of Logan right now. You know, when they're watching the western, that's basically like
An old film.
Like
The film they are in.
It's literally the film they're in. Yeah, I like how it's like the director's statement is coming out of the screen while they're watching the movie of the idea. Oh, I want it to be a drama and a musical. That made me giggle. That was fun. But yeah, no, we could go to scores because I feel like a lot more of the substantive things I want to say have to do with spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it. If you're actually interested in seeing this movie, it's interesting. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it if you didn't want to, but definitely if you liked the first one, it's better than the first one. So yeah.
But it's also not.
Yeah,
it's good. If you
like
love the first one, you're not gonna like this one.
If you love the first one,
you...
you should watch this one and suffer for being an idiot. Yeah.
But it's also it kind of frustrates. We have to go to spoilers, but I need to bring this up anyway. What are you giving it?
Okay, I'm gonna give it honestly like a 6 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a solid 6 out of 10. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go slightly higher. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Which, if you told me that a week or two ago, I would have been like, no way.
Even a 6.
But yeah, I'm really, really surprised at how much I liked a bunch of this film, and maybe it does come down to my strong dislike for the first one, and the reaction to that film and the way people acted. That was one of the greatest films ever made. When it just annoyed me. It's like see if everyone had just watched Taxi Driver at 3 years old like me, then they would understand that it's not.
You should not watch Taxi Driver at 3 years old.
Do not watch Taxi Driver.
Do not watch it. No.
I'm kidding. I did watch it, but that kind of frustrated me. But like this whole everything, Todd Phillips, critiquing his own work and this false idealization.
I
of his
appreciate that.
Film.
Honestly, I like him more because of this
I did
movie.
like it.
Yeah.
I did really think that was impressive. Anyway,
yes.
Right, this is the thing I want to talk about. Right, so spoilers now, guys. So we're going to get everything spoilers. We can talk about everything now. Right. So the main reaction I've seen online about this film is that fans of the original are very disappointed in this film because, even Lady Gaga says in the film, she says, well, or Joker in one of his fantasies where they're doing that kind of late night show together. And they're doing that song, and then the Joker he says, I feel like we're not giving the people what they want.
Yeah.
And then Lady Gaga says, why don't we give the people what they want? Which this film is not that.
Yes.
I didn't, and this is kind of the weird disconnect. I think people went in expecting this film to be the Joker escapes prison with Harley Quinn and then goes and commits a bunch of crimes and becomes, and is the criminal mastermind.
They were definitely expecting, what's the name of those? The couple who robbed banks in the 1930s.
Bonnie and Clyde?
Bonnie and Clyde. I feel like people were expecting a Bonnie and Clyde style movie of a dark romance. So like all the people in toxic relationships can dress up as them this Halloween kind of thing. This was not that.
No,
it was.
But this is my problem. It's like But did you not see the film that you so claim to love?
Yeah,
Because
because
that
that wasn't
film
that
made
either.
it no, that made it so clear
Yeah,
that Arthur Fleck is a mentally ill man with
yeah,
not who's sadly been let down by the system and is not an intelligent man and
yes,
could not possibly be the criminal mastermind that is the Joker.
yeah,
Like you're expecting the film we got, this
hmm,
sequel, is way more in line with that first film than the expectation of those going
yes.
into this film expecting some sort of real Joker and Harley
The
ruining
thing is,
Gotham
I
thing.
feel
Because
like,
that's stupid.
God, there's been so many
Uh-huh.
versions of the Joker. There's been so many interpretations of it that at this point, any Joker is basically in everyone's
Hmm.
eyes the same character that has the
Hmm.
same goals, the same things. Like, I mean, it's part of the lore in some of the worst fucking comics where you have like,
Hmm.
oh, the three Jokers, but they're three people, but
The
they're
three
one people.
Jokers?
Oh, sorry,
The
I'm
three
bad.
Jokers.
Jokers, yeah, they're egg people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
no, but like some of the most criticized like DC Comics try to go in this meta
mm,
version of like making the Joker like a manifestation of the god of madness or some bullshit like that, and
mm,
like this ever
mm,
presence that they kind of want to add to him. And I feel like, I mean, the only interesting aspect of the first movie
mm.
was that it was bringing it down and being like, hey, it was basically like a different version of the Killing Joke, just like
Yeah.
analyzing,
One
hey,
bad day.
one bad day, like that kind of thing.
Mm,
Like what could drive a person to be like this?
mhm.
And yeah, I feel like they thought from there, like we were gonna get the Joker that shoots.
Mm.
The host, whatever the hell his name was, I forgot.
Murray
Murray,
Franklin, yeah.
yeah, Franklin. Yeah, I
Mm,
thought they probably thought that that's what they were gonna get, and this was gonna be
mhm,
like an empire of debauchery of the Joker just
mhm,
fucking up society and stuff.
mhm.
And it seems like Todd knew exactly that is what they were expecting, because he
Yes.
makes it very clear. He
uh,
puts in characters in this freaking movie who represent the
yeah.
people who were expecting that, and that is what they
Yeah.
wanted. And he makes a
Mm,
point of how those people do not care about the humanity behind the Joker in the
mhm.
slightest, and only
Yeah.
care about an image of a symbol that they can follow to
Mhm.
justify their own, destructive nature and want.
Yeah. And chaos, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, hey,
Mhm.
we want a figure to
Yeah.
symbolize our fucked up wants, what we
Yeah.
want to do, and we want to
Uh-huh.
be able to put all that on them.
Mhm.
Like we
The
want to,
martyr.
yeah, we
Yeah.
want to blame the
Yeah.
Joker for everything. We want to take it out of
Yeah.
ourselves and put it onto
Uh-huh.
him. And I think in that sense, Lady
Mhm.
Gaga's character was really successful. I'm kind
Mhm.
of let down in some of the way she was portrayed, like the whole
Okay.
pregnancy manipulation thing and stuff. I feel like it
Mhm.
goes in way too much in the kind of
Mhm.
view of women that the people that idolize the Joker already have.
Mhm.
So in that
Right.
sense, I'm a bit disappointed. I feel like you could have made her that represent that without going into that whole woman manipulates you through sex trope,
Mhm. Mhm.
which feels like an oversight, given
Mhm.
the audience that
I
he
think
was
I
literally
agree. I think
talking
that's an
to.
oversight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I do appreciate that topic. I do appreciate
Mhm.
Catherine
Mhm.
Keener's. Don't remember the fuck her character is. She's like some sort of attorney or something like
Her, yeah,
that.
her,
Lawyer.
the
Yeah,
defense lawyer. Yeah.
yeah. She, her character of someone who's actually trying for the first time ever to like see Arthur as what he is, the
Uh huh.
victim. I like the
Yes.
idea of him going against that and not wanting to see himself as the victim that he is. I
Exactly.
appreciate that
Yeah.
as well. That is a very reasonable.
Uh-huh.
Like I really do like how there's not a good guy, bad guy thing going on in this movie.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
like. I feel like the last one was a bit more black and white in that sense. Like the
Mhm.
system was clearly bad. Wayne, like Mr. Wayne, was clearly fucking capitalist asshole. Like all the kind of like
Mhm.
people that we saw were clearly exploitative and bad people. Whereas here, the
Uh-huh.
exploitation is a bit more subtle in some ways with some of the
Mhm.
characters.
Mhm.
Where like yeah, like the lawyer character, like they do seem to be exploiting him in a way, like
Yeah.
not a very
Lee
overt
Harvey Dent.
way. Yeah.
exploiting them,
Oh, Harvey
or
Dent, definitely.
yeah,
Harvey
yeah,
Dent is just using this case that is very public, that he is very
mhm.
easy to win, to just put a
Yes,
little like coin on his lapel. Like it's very
yeah,
clear that he's not taking
mhm,
this seriously at all. That he's there
yeah,
because he knows this is an easy case. This guy is going
mhm,
down no matter what. But it's also a very
yeah.
public case, which is going to make me look
It's a
very
very
good.
famous case. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
really like that. That was really fun because that is the Harvey Dent that we all know and love. But yeah, no, it's yeah, the political climbing manipulative asshole.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, like even in things like the lawyer and her being very sympathetic towards him, it feels like she wants to put him in a box as well, much
Uh-huh.
like everyone else. You know,
Uh-huh. And
even yeah,
I like that point you're making. Like, he doesn't want to be portrayed as the
yeah,
victim in this thing, because it's like every time they mention very, very severe subject
yes,
matter in his history about being abused as a child, he
he
immediately
reacts. Yeah,
turns away, goes to his notepad, or looks at Lee, and then
goes to the
because of
notepad
that,
to
he
draw
feels
the
like,
Joker. Yeah, it's yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then feels like he also escapes through the daydreams of
Yes.
music, and then obviously being pushed by Harley, and it's like, oh, the lawyer's not, got your best interest. Like, like the Joker kind of needs to come out, and
Yeah.
it's Joker as a defense mechanism.
Yes, which is
Very
exactly what,
interesting.
yeah, which is
Uh-huh.
exactly what she was portraying him to be.
Yeah.
But it's also this idea of
Mhm.
like, despite her trying to help him in her own way, which she clearly has good intentions,
Uh-huh.
but she is
Uh-huh.
also placing Arthur Fleck in a box of pure
Mhm.
innocence that he is
Yeah.
not in. That is not the box that
Mhm.
he belongs in. He's a complex
Mhm.
human being that is both a
Yeah.
victim and
Uh-huh.
like a victimizer. Like he's abused and he's been the
Mhm.
victim. He can be
Yeah.
both. And this idea of her wanting to put him in one box, everyone else wanting
Mhm.
to put him in another. And then
Mhm.
some, like, what differs is that some people see him as an abuser as a good thing
Mhm.
or as a bad thing.
Mhm.
But, like, it is
Yeah.
very interesting how they're taking this idea of Arthur Fleck and being like, hey, you are what I think you are. And I think
Mhm.
that is the most strong aspect of this film, and that is the most interesting aspect of this film, of
Mhm.
analyzing this complex character through the
Mhm.
lens of what people imagine him to be. They are putting him in
Yeah.
different boxes, and we get to see that he is whole, not just these separate
Mhm.
parts, and the
Yeah.
struggle between those. And we get to see the nakedness behind the idea of the Joker, the image of the Joker, and we get to see how, sadly, even after he kills the Joker
Mhm.
keeps on living.
Yeah.
He just
Moving
stays
on.
there. Like,
Mhm.
um,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
I mean,
like,
one of the best, like you said, one of the best scenes in the film is. I mean, we'll
yeah,
talk about the sexual assault thing in a minute and the controversy behind that. But the scene when it comes to their closing statements, and he gets the stool and sits there, and then sort of tries to keep the performance up, but just can't
you
do
just
it,
can't do it
and
anymore.
then
Yeah.
just says, "There is no Joker," and once again, perfect. Like what have life imitating art, or art
Yeah.
imitating life, whatever way you want to look at it. People will get up and leave.
Yeah.
That is not what they came to see.
Yeah.
They came to see a man embrace the chaos,
Chaos.
embrace the martyr
So they
thing,
could, through
and
him,
he, uh huh,
like, I think that's what we see with Quinn's character, like
yeah,
Lee's character, sorry. She
mm,
very well, like, we find out that she's not actually, like, she hasn't ever done anything. She's just a rich kid who,
yeah,
like, through him, she's like, oh, I'm nobody. You actually
yeah,
did something with your life. She
hmm,
is living through his actions. His
yes,
murder spree is her,
mm,
like, oh, this is what I wish I could do.
mm,
And everyone
yeah,
else that we see is doing the
hmm,
same. They're basically
hmm,
using him as a vessel, as an excuse to live their, like,
yeah,
gory fantasies of chaos and
hmm,
doing whatever they want no matter what
hmm,
because they're in
hmm,
charge, you know.
yeah.
And it is very interesting that they make her be rich, because I don't think Harley's, like, ever been portrayed as rich before. I think
No, it's well,
because
and
she's a
maybe they took
doctor.
it from, she is a doctor, but maybe
Yeah.
they took it from because originally she was a doctor in a
Yeah, in the
psychiatrist.
animated series.
Maybe they
No,
took it,
but I
oh,
think
she
it's a
must have been
very
like, oh,
interesting
middle class or
choice.
rich parents
That's the
to
thing.
like pay her through college sort of thing. Yeah.
But I feel like it's a very
Uh,
interesting thing to make her have a rich background, because
mhm.
it really
Because
does
it's like,
make you feel like, yeah,
yeah, his reality and his upbringing is
his
completely alien to what
reality,
ours have
his
been. Yeah.
story, his
Uh-huh.
tragedy is her
Uh-huh.
entertainment.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
I think that's a
not
good
just
summation of
her,
that.
but
Yeah.
everyone else who is like here watching the show. They don't
Mm-hmm.
care if he gets the chair afterwards
No.
or not. They're not there
No.
to save him. They're just there to enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
last few minutes of entertainment before he goes down.
Yeah.
The same way the
Mm-hmm.
guards use him to tell jokes
Uh-huh.
and entertain them and make their lives
Mm-hmm.
more fun. The same way that like the TV stations abuse the fact that like he's a sensation to try to get these interviews and
Yeah.
to sell newspapers. The same way Harvey Dent is using this case just to prop
Mm-hmm. To
himself
win.
up.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
use him, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that is a very interesting. That's what I mean when I say like this is a very flawed movie that has
Yeah.
really big pacing issues, and I was
Yeah.
bored through some parts of this film. Like some parts of this
Yeah.
film generally took me out of it because of
Mm-hmm.
how like much we were revisiting and shit. But holy fuck if it doesn't have interesting things to say, man. Like that's
So, yeah.
why I think
Uh-huh.
this is a way better movie than the last one. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go
I
from a 6 to
completely.
a 7. I'm gonna bump it up actually.
You
Now that I've been
talking about this?
it, I'm gonna
Talking about
I'm
it so
talking
much.
myself into enjoying this
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Arthur doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Yes, and like I do like that thing that he is caught in this big existential case that he doesn't even fully understand what he's a
No.
part of and wants to play into it and then can't, and then he's just caught between two different
And
ideas
he
of what
feels
people want to put him
guilty
into. I
about
think
what
that's very
happened.
good.
I
Yeah.
love the fact that
Uh-huh.
like one of them,
Mhm.
like the lawyer, wants
The
to
Gary
acquit
Puddles
him.
character.
Oh, Gary Puddles'
Is that
character
right?
is
Yeah.
so good.
Right.
It's so
Uh-huh.
good. The one person that kind of like was there for him and cared about
Uh-huh.
him in his life, he scared and pushed away and made
Yeah.
his life miserable. And I love how
Yeah.
that's the start of him breaking this fucking character of the Joker
Uh-huh.
that he's putting
Yeah.
on for the sake of other people. Because this character comes out for the sake of other people. We see it in the first movie. I don't know how people didn't read this because I mean, Todd Phillips, not the best director, sure, but like, come on, man, that was fucking obvious. The character of the Joker only appears because other people push him to
Push him to
become
that
that.
place, yeah.
Like that is the only way he can see to deal with the bullshit that's around him. Now, that character is pushing the one person that truly did care about him, a person he had a lot of like really nice and intimate scenes with in the first movie. The only person that really cared about him, not even his mother, was nice to him. But
Yeah.
this guy was because Flake treated him well. Was the only person not
Yeah.
to make fun of him.
And I think that's also just a true.
Yeah.
And I love that scene as well because he's doing his ridiculous,
character,
Southern lawyer
accents,
impression.
Yeah. Like
And
for
obviously,
horror
he has no
stuff,
idea how to obviously defend himself or handle a court or anything like that.
He's
And
just making a show of it.
what I really liked about that scene is, like you say, it breaks. That's the one thing that's starting to break through to end the sort of charade and end the Joker's reign of Arthur's mind, which obviously,
I
like
feel
we're talking
like
about, the cartoon
that's
kind of
why
shows.
I have an issue with what happens next to him with the sexual
Right. Okay.
assault scene.
Well, we will.
I
We will.
haven't.
We'll talk about
We'll
it.
talk about it on like that sense, but for me,
Yeah.
it kind of takes away from it. I think it would have been stronger as a character turn if it was Gary Puddles' like statement.
That's what pushed him. That's what pushed him out of the Joker thing.
Yeah, and
because
I understand there's
that is him like telling
Yeah.
him Arthur was
Yes.
a nice guy.
I
at the
liked
end
Arthur.
Of the day.
He's the only person who sees him as Arthur and says, Arthur is the person I cared about. He's the only person in that whole movie that sees Arthur for Arthur and wants and says Arthur was better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I agree. Well, let's so the controversial thing is that once
Yes.
the Joker, the Joker persona is sort of kind of taking charge, and he's like living it up, and he's playing it for the crowd, and he makes fun of the guards at Arkham. And when he goes back to prison that day, still in the sort of Joker role, laughing and making jokes, they strip him down. And this is, you didn't know if this happened or not, because they strip him down,
I
they
wasn't
beat him up, they
100%
throw him into
sure.
the showers.
Yes,
and then
it
Brendan
felt
Gleeson,
out of the blue for me. It felt too much for me. So I wasn't sure if I was reading into it. Because he does make that whole like joke of like, oh, buy me a dinner first.
buy
and
me a
stuff.
drink first, yeah.
And then they say strip
And then
him
they-
and they take him into the showers. And
they
I was
say
like,
strip him,
are they
and
doing a
that's-
sexual assault thing or are they not? I wasn't sure because it didn't feel like it fit.
And this is why, because when I watched, I was like, oh, It's like they have done
Yeah.
that because his reaction to it is
This has happened
like
before.
we've
Yeah.
seen. It's like it puts him in a catatonic state where he can't speak anymore, and there's that really great shot of him in the cell, and there's just that one slither of
Yeah.
light in his
Yeah.
eye, and you can tell he's just like completely in shock. And also, we've seen him be beat up 100 times before, and it doesn't really affect him
Yes.
to like
Yes.
a degree as something like the sexual assault would have. Um,
I understand that,
I
but for
think, and
me,
obviously that the
I don't
next
know.
scene
It
is obviously that him
feels,
at his closing statement at the
yeah,
court and
for
him
me, it
denouncing
feels
the
too
Joker title.
extrinsic, just like as a
Hmm.
narrative. It feels
Uh-huh.
like this change comes from the outside rather than the inside. It feels like, oh, they beat him down
Hmm.
so much that he breaks. I
Yeah.
don't love that as a
No.
theme. I
Hmm.
see. I like the fact that they
I
murder his
uh-huh.
friend, the one guy who's
Uh-huh.
like getting roused up out of like following him and being with him and stuff.
Hmm.
That works for me. I think it would have worked
Hmm.
better if like his shit gets punished on that guy
Yeah.
and he gets killed,
What
and that's what
in
makes him
addition to the Gary thing
exactly
making him
so
realize that the error
having Gary
of this
Puddles do
Joker
the thing,
persona.
then the other person that was like really close to him because of his Joker
Uh-huh.
persona and him like being all gets
Yeah.
murdered. That is
Hmm.
what breaks him. I feel like that
Yeah.
seems like a more intrinsic and like life changing thing because it is implied that he's been like assaulted before. Like this is
He's been
not.
sexually abused before as
Yeah,
a child. Yeah.
he was as
Hmm.
a child, and it's implied that it also
Hmm.
happened with the guards before. You know,
Uh-huh.
like it's
Yeah.
that whole thing of like make us
Hmm.
laugh. Oh, he hasn't laughed for a while, kind of thing. Like we see us like maybe living here and suffering through that has put him down and. So
Hmm.
I don't know, man. That's the only thing about the movie for me
Uh-huh.
that I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like it.
I tend to I agree with you on that. I do think having a more just emotional and cutting through to the
Yeah.
heart of Arthur to break the Joker thing makes it's just stronger. It's just better. It's kind of just it's also just feels kind of inappropriate
It
in a
does
weird way
feel kind
doing
of
this. Like,
nasty to have him
um,
like
it is
realize who he
nasty.
truly is
Uh,
through being sexually assaulted. Like
yeah,
I
and I
understand that
think
we're showing the
I
bad parts of like the
yeah.
this
No, but
prison system and shit,
I
but like
also think that it's the idea what I think Phillips was going for here, right? And
yes.
like we don't agree. I don't agree with it being successful like you. I think what he was going for was he believes the Joker identity is one of power and
Yes.
not manipulation,
But yeah,
what do you call it?
control. Yeah.
Control or inspiration to
Instagram. Yeah.
people that because of that he is kind of powerful and he's
Mm.
kind of untouchable, but what that does is completely it once again puts them just back, place them, you're a human being, you're
Yeah, yeah.
someone who we can take that power away from you
Yes.
just like that.
Yes.
That the Joker is not an untouchable figure
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all, and I think that's what he was going for,
I get
but
that.
it is kind of in bad taste.
I don't like that
Mhm.
decision, and I also feel
Uh-huh.
like a lot of what makes the Joker,
Mhm.
like what makes him powerful and pump up, is that he is a performance. There's
Mhm.
no Joker
Yeah.
without an audience.
Yes.
I feel
Uh-huh.
like taking away his audience is stronger than
Mhm.
sexually assaulting
Absolutely.
him.
Uh-huh.
Which again
Uh-huh.
is
No,
implied
I.
because it is implied that the Joker personality comes like is a defense mechanism against being sexually assaulted, having been sexually
Mhm.
assaulted as a child, which
Mhm.
makes me feel like it would have the opposite effect.
Mhm. Like
Him
he would
getting
just
sexually
carry on
assaulted
being
again
Joker.
would make Arthur Fleck just disappear and him go fully Joker
Mhm.
afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one point of contention for me. That and a
Mhm.
sillier one to do with Lee's character.
Yeah.
Which I'm thinking now maybe was intentionally a way of
Uh-huh.
telling us that she is all talk. Actually, no, never mind. I don't
Mhm.
dislike that scene
Oh,
anymore because
you
I've
don't
thought
dislike.
about it.
Okay.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
context,
Mhm.
I had an issue while watching the movie in the last scene
Mhm.
where Lee's character is confronted by the Joker when he comes back to the steps of the thing, and she's
Mhm.
there waiting for him and says like, "I don't like you anymore because you're not the Joker.
Yeah.
Goodbye." And then he
Yeah.
gets arrested. I had an issue with
Like,
that
you're not just.
because it felt like she killed herself. At the first time they meet, she does the pretend gunshot to the head thing, and then when they're quote unquote broken up, when she basically abandons him on the phone, we get a shot of
Yeah.
her with a gun to her head on the other side of the phone, and then we never see her for a while. I
Yeah.
assumed that that was a vision of him confronting her, because it's not the first time we've seen Arthur hallucinate conversations with people. I assumed that that was going to be revealed to be a vision of her.
Yeah.
And then when we cut to the wide shot and we see her walking up the stairs as the police approach, I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
what? I thought that was a
Yeah.
vision.
She is there. Yeah.
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 Now, because I've been cooking on this movie a bit more, I
Yeah.
am realizing that maybe that's the fucking point. That she is so detached from his existence, one where he wanted to kill himself a couple of times,
Yeah.
and he's talked about it before. She's so much living through his performance without actually living any of the consequences of his actual miserable, horrible life, that her killing herself was also one of those performances. Her presenting herself as someone who wants to shoot herself in a very cavalier way, her holding the gun up to her head, it's her kind of edging that idea of, oh, this is what I wish I could be, this tragic
I
figure,
could be
but
Joker,
never having too much privilege to ever be put in that position. So she knows
Yeah.
she doesn't kill herself. She just cuts her hair. Now I get why she
Yeah.
cut her hair. Fuck, that's actually good. That's actually good. Okay, well,
Thinking through
sorry,
films with
Todd.
Gonzalo, where he
Sorry,
just talks to finally get to the
I
his
didn't get
conclusion.
it, Todd.
Yeah.
I criticized
Yeah,
you to my
I did.
mum after watching the movie, and I was like, I thought that was a bad idea. Now I understand what you were going for. I'm very sorry, Todd Phillips. That was really good. Yeah.
But
So,
right, let's
yeah.
let's talk about this big ending.
Yes.
So right,
Yes.
Joker's in prison. He's found guilty on all charges. He is then obviously going to get the electric chair. We then cut back to the prison. He's Arthur again. He's just sitting down. He's then told by a guard that there's a visitor waiting for him.
Yes.
Who could the visitor be? We'll never know. He goes out in the hallway and then stopped by another inmate who then tells him a joke about basically how disappointed it is in the fact that Joker is gone.
It's not a
And
Joker.
he's not the Joker.
same.
And in doing so then stabs Arthur to death. And then this is interesting. I actually really love the shot as well, where Arthur is bleeding out on the floor, and you've blurred out the inmate who is
Just sitting
laughing
Yeah.
like a more, like Mark
Like a
Hamill or
different- yeah.
more
Like a more Joker.
real kind of proper Joker laugh,
And then
slicing
slices
his mouth
open. in
like
the
Heath
background.
Ledger's
Yes.
smile. So
Yes.
he's doing it with the knife, and while Arthur is bleeding out. And this is what I was getting at when the titles of these films are called Joker,
Not
and he's
bad.
never called. He's not called the Joker ever. He's just called Joker in these films because he's not the Joker. The Joker is born when Arthur dies, and I kind of love that. Once again, Arthur's kind of powerless in this situation where it kind of didn't matter if he lived or died.
Yeah.
The Joker would be born through the actions he has committed, and I love that ending. I thought the ending was good.
I thought the
I
ending
don't know
was-
how you end it any other way, really.
Yeah,
than
no, that
Arthur
was
dying.
I think that was a good ending. My main issue is there's too much
Mm-hmm.
distance between the explosion at the courthouse and the ending. It feels like it
Yeah.
drags way too much. I understand there's 3 ideas that they pop in. Again, the Harleen Quinn cell thing, just like
Mm-hmm.
rehashing the fact that this was all living vicariously through someone rather than actually, being involved in anything, kind of thing. And then you have the issue with like him seeing how far the people that see him as a symbol are going with the blowing up of the courthouse. And then again, when he's dragged into the car, seeing how much, even though he literally just said on Live TV, fuck the Joker, I'm not the Joker, he never existed, there's still people out there being like, oh my god, it's the Joker, I love you
It's
so
him,
much.
it's him.
Let's burn
Yeah.
this whole city down. This is only the start, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I mean, I guess that's... and I do like the contrasting imagery of someone dressed up exactly as the Joker, dragging an Arthur
Dragging
flag
Arthur.
in his brown suit along. Like, again, there's really fucking good imagery in the movie. If nothing else, the symbolism is great. But yeah, it does drag out a bit for me. It goes on for a bit too long, which is
I think it's a bit
about
too
the whole
long.
movie.
I think it's a bit too long.
I don't think this movie needed to be as long as it is. I don't think it needs to drag on as long as it did drag on. But yeah, I don't know. I like that ending. I like the ambiguity of whether there was actually
Mhm.
someone waiting to see him. Maybe
I don't think there
Gary.
was. I think it was the
That's the thing.
guards
Like maybe
wanting
Gary
him to
was
die.
going to
Mhm.
say goodbye. Maybe it was the guards just
Mhm.
letting him like go in this ambush so they can kill him on
Yeah.
their own way, kind
Yep.
of thing. And take away the grandioseness of like being in the
Mhm.
electric chair or whatever the fuck. I
Yeah.
don't know. I like that it's never like made clear. It's left
Yeah.
kind of vague,
Mhm.
and that's kind of
No,
nice.
I
It's
like it.
like, was there hope? Or this there no hope? We'll never know, and it doesn't matter because he's
No.
dead now. But
Like I
yeah,
say, it's a very hopeless film.
it
You kind
is.
of
It
know where it's
is.
going to
Yeah,
go. Like he's there's one track for Arthur.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that will wrap it up. Right. Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for
Big.
joining me.
It's been nice. It's been nice. I love how
It's been
talking
a
about
good
this
discussion.
movie made me like this movie more.
Yeah. That's why we talk about movies. It makes you
Yes,
think
yes,
things through. It makes you
yes. It
like
does.
films
It
more.
really does.
Uh,
There's nothing like a talk after a movie. So
but
yes.
yeah, there's no post credit scene, guys. Just saying.
No.
I'm kidding. Imagine there was. He just gets
I
like no, he
don't
just
know
gets
actually
taken
because
away
I the cinema
to
was
the
closing
hospital.
down, so I kind of had to
Uh,
leave beforehand. So I don't actually
uh,
know that there's a post
no,
credit scene. Yeah.
there's.
Okay.
Imagine what they're going to. Arthur like wakes up in a
I don't know.
hospital bed, and then he's just like, "Oh, we're putting together a team, and it's another Suicide Squad reboot." I don't
That would
know.
have been very funny. Very funny.
That would have been funny. That
Yeah.
would have been a good joke.
Yes.
But yeah, on next week's episode, we're going to have a
Yes.
lot to review next week.
Mm.
Gonzalo might be reviewing The Wild Robot for
Give it a
us
try. Give it a
because
try.
that
Yeah.
releases in Spain before it does here.
Yeah.
Plus,
And it
the
actually
London
looks
Film
really
Festivals.
good.
I know that's actually
Yeah.
yes. The London Film Festival's happening this week, so I'll
Mm.
be catching a couple early premieres
Cool. Cool. Cool.
for Steve
So
McQueen's
jealous.
Blitz with Saoirse Ronan and Anora, the big
Mm.
Cannes-winning
Mm.
film from Sean Baker,
Mm.
who did The Florida Project, Tangerine, and Red Rocket, if
Red
I remember
Rockets.
correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited for those films. Ken will be
Yeah.
back to review
Makes
some of them
sense.
as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, we just gave our opinion on Joker Folie Adieu. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.
Ta-da.